What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. Tyler's Talking RC. In this case this week, Tyler Talking RC. As you can see, I don't have Olin or Tyler P with me this week, but that's not a big deal. They were a little busy, had some stuff going on. Life happens. But I'm going to keep it going. So with them not being here, I've actually decided maybe to try some kind of new format, so a little bit of a mini series podcast I'm going to do where I just talk about a specific product, not so much an idea or a race or anything like that, but just one product. And today that's going to be the Sledge, and I do have a Kraton with me next to it so we can kind of compare them back and forth. It's going to be more of a technical video rather than a running and bashing video, which I'm sure there's 100 of those out there now with the Sledge running and the Kraton. So it's mostly just my opinion on the cars. But of course, before we get into that, I've got a couple upcoming events. First off, this Sunday is the 33 years of RCMadness. The turf race, turf opener will be the Sunday. And then we have the on-road opener the 23rd. And of course our off-road the 24th. That's the A-Scale. Check out the A-Scale podcast. We did a little while back with Justin if you want to check that out. And then we did an on-road one as well, so you guys can get a feel for what that's going to be like. So that's pretty cool. And then also from the 7th to the 10th, which is the day that you're seeing this, till Sunday, we're doing a spring sale here at Madness. So a whole bunch of stuff on sale in light of the spring season. So come down, check that out. I might score a good deal on something. All kinds of random stuff on sale. I know there's some gonna be some radios or tires, maybe a couple cars, but it's in-store only, so gotta come down and check it out. Nothing's gonna be posted up, so you gotta come check it out. So I did post up something on the Facebook page pertaining to that, so check it out. And while you're there, you might as well like and share and subscribe and the whole show. And I really appreciate all the support from you guys. It's really been fun, and I enjoy doing these videos. So make sure you like and comment if you like them too. And like I said, this is gonna be a new style, sort of mini series. So if you're into that, let me know, because I think it might be kind of fun. Maybe break it up a little bit from the technical talks that we always do that kind of go on for a little while. But anyway, today we're talking Sledge, and I'm going to compare it a little bit to a Kraton. We're going to mostly focus on the new truck because I think it's pretty cool. Traxxas did a pretty good job. I'm going to actually move the camera around today, at least I'm going to try to. That's why the angle looks a little bit different this evening. But yeah, let's get into it. So right off the bat, Sledge, Kraton. It's been the buzz for the last couple weeks. Traxxas kind of came out of nowhere with this thing, in my opinion. It just kind of was posted up on their page, and it was like brand new car, which is pretty cool. But I didn't see it coming. I thought we were going to see a version 2 X Max before I saw this, but we got it here. We're here now, so let's check it out. First off, between the two, you notice is the body. So Kraton obviously been out for a long time now. We're pretty familiar with the Kraton. The body does take just the regular body clips. They do give you the little strings on them, which is pretty nice. And it seems to work fine. The strings do break a little bit over time, but we beat on them pretty good. So that being said, not a big deal. So while we're at it, I'm just gonna pop the bodies off of them. This is the blue Kraton. You can get that in red as well. Today I have the green Sledge. I'm gonna throw the bodies on the floor today. I'm gonna focus on the Sledge a little bit here first and then kind of compare it a little bit as we go. The Sledge body is pretty sweet. Obviously the no clip body design, which I'm sure you're familiar with at this point if you're checking it out. Basically reach under the wheel wells, pull the clips to the side, it pops up and slides forward. So he's got the mechanism that slides into the front shock tower and clips in the back. I kind of like this one opposed to the X-Max ones. It looks like they kind of updated it a little bit. The X-Max kind of slid down and then latched in the back, which worked all right, but the latch would have problems sometimes coming undone. If you've been bashing hard on an X-Max, you should know, you kind of know what I'm talking about. This one with it sliding backwards and then clicking in, I did that kind of aggressive, you don't have to hit it. But clicking in, it's on there pretty good, and I haven't had anybody report back to me the body's falling off. I don't know if there's any other videos out there people bashing them having trouble with it, but personally I haven't really heard anything bad about the clipless body on this particular model. Comes off real easy, goes on easy. So I give it a thumbs up for that. The only thing I do wish is we got a green demo one. I wish that they made the aluminum green to match the paint. That's my only gripe with that. They did it on the X-Maxes. They had orange and green and blue and black, which I thought was really cool. I think if they did a green body with the green truck, I thought that would have been cool. They do all of them blue, which, don't get me wrong, the blue color is really nice on this truck. It's not a bad blue, but it kind of makes me just want to get a blue body. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there saying the same thing. But we'll go over the truck first. I got a little cheat sheet over here, so if you see me looking to the side there, that's all it is. Just so I remember to cover some points here. I'm going to adjust the camera angle so you guys can see a little bit better. Alright, so we're going to rock the camera off the stand a little bit so you guys can get a little bit closer look. Makes it a little better, I think, for you guys. So we'll go over the truck here real quick. First impressions and what it looks like. So they did a really nice job with this nice aluminum chassis brace down the center. I've got the Kraton here. We'll kind of go over them at the same time. Kraton obviously pioneered the center chassis brace down the middle there. They use a aluminum rod with a plastic end and a threaded grub screw to hold it on, which seems to work pretty good. I have never really had any real problems with it. Traxxas decided they went with a solid aluminum rod into a plastic housing here, but it has a pin screw that goes through it and holds it together, which is pretty nice. They're claiming to be stronger, and they went with this. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but this is actually like a T shaped rather than just a round aluminum rod. I would assume more of the I-beam type shape being stronger. But then again, I really didn't have much problem with the Kraton one, other than I have changed a few bent ones before, but that was only because it did hit the chassis and kind of bent the whole thing up. So I can't really blame just the chassis rod for that when you hit a curb doing 60. But that being said, I haven't heard much feedback of these ones bending or being bad. So I guess time will tell on that one. So other than that, moving to just the regular chassis braces in the back, it's got, I think, I'm going to say 3 chassis points. Yeah, you got one here, here, and then one on the other side. And then in the front, just the one here. And then Kraton, we have one down from the back and one in the front. So Traxxas does win there with the braces. Got 3 of them in the back opposed to 1, so checkmark Sledge. I'd like to see what's going to come out for aluminum upgrades here. The only drawback with having 3 chassis braces is going to be 3 times expensive to make them aluminum, whereas Kraton, 1 chassis brace, buy it once in aluminum, but not quite as strong. So I guess take what you can get there. And then we move on to the drive shafts and drivetrain. A little hard to see in the video here, guys, sorry, but center drive shafts, in my opinion, when I first saw them, I thought they looked kind of thin compared to the Arrma truck. Let's see if I can get you both shots here. Probably a little hard to tell on camera. The actual diameter of the shaft itself seems to be thicker on the Arrma trucks. But that being said, I haven't really heard anything bad about these ones bending or breaking. They do seem a little bit shorter. Maybe not too much in the back. But as I'm saying all this stuff comparing the trucks, you have to keep in mind the Sledge has only been out for, I don't know, not even a month of real bashing by the general public, where the Kraton's been out. This is the 5th version of the truck, and it's been out for I don't know how many years now, so this has got a lot more bash time on it than this truck. So you got to kind of keep that in mind when I say I haven't seen any problems with it, but once they start selling more and more, we may see more problems in the future. So take that for what you will. But the drivetrain in the Sledge seems pretty solid. It's all steel, output shafts, dog bones. The diff gears are a little bit bigger than the Arrma gears. The teeth are a little more aggressive, and the actual physical size of the gear is bigger. So that being said, I I have been changing out diff gears and Kratons for quite a long time from stripped gears, but it's usually only a problem when they run really big tires and they're putting a lot of power in these trucks. Like I said, the truck's been out for a while, so people have been 8S'ing these trucks and putting huge belted tires on them. So that's really going to beat on the diff gears. But when it comes down to it, the Sledge does have bigger gears. So technically they should hold up to more power. So speaking of power, we might as well talk about electronics now that we got through the drivetrain. Both trucks, full steel drivetrain there. So time will tell if this is a stronger setup. I'm thinking it's gonna be, but like I said, we gotta give it time. Moving on to the power system, we have the VXL 6S from Traxxas, and I believe, I think that's a 2000 kV motor. I gotta double check on that one. And then of course the Spectrum setup in the Kraton. To be honest with you, neither one of these setups I'm too hot on. I've had problems with the Spectrum in the past a few times. Well, I should say more than a few, but there are a lot more out there. This VXL 6S, I don't know, maybe if this has got different software in it or something, but I have had trouble with it. And I don't know. I prefer either car, honestly. Either car, I prefer to put a hobby wing in them, Max 6. Motor-wise, I think the motors are fine. To me, a motor's a motor. As long as you run it within spec and don't completely overheat them, you shouldn't really have much of a problem. But speed controls on both of them both leave a little to be desired in my opinion. The Spectrum does have the smart technology, which is kind of cool. If you're running a smart radio, you can see the battery voltage and all that fun stuff. And then Traxxas has, of course, the ID system. But like I said, both to me are pretty much on an equal playing field. And then overall speed from the two, I've ran both of these cars. They're both ridiculously fast out of the box. It's hard for me to say which one I think is faster because I don't know. They're both pretty solid and more fast than they really ever need to be honest with you. The Sledge does scream out of the box. These tires were ballooning right up. I have had a couple customers pop them, but I have had these pop too, so I can't knock either one of those for that. Belted tires are definitely a way to go. I wish they went with a belted sledgehammer tire on this. That would have just pushed it over for me. That would have been awesome if they threw a belted tire on this truck. And I hope maybe a Kraton V6 comes with some belted tires like the Italian EXB did. Those tires seem to hold up really well. There we go, I'll show you them. Tire wise, now that we're talking about tires anyway, there's your stock Kraton tire and your Sledge. Let's see if I can get it size wise. Looks like the Kraton maybe a little bit taller diameter. The width pretty close, kind of hard to tell. Yeah, I would say they're about the same. The lugs are pretty much the same. Maybe the Sledge being a little bit heavier of a lug, but we're really splitting hairs. From a pure aesthetic standpoint, I think the Traxxas is kind of a cool looking tire. Maybe a little bit better than that, but really splitting hairs for me there, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, they seem to do the job, and as long as you don't drive completely insane, either tire will do just fine. Not too bad. Alright, let's see what else we got here. Well, we were talking about electronics before. We can talk about servos. So I think Traxxas did a good job here. So when I first saw this, I thought, oh man, it's just another 2075. But it's actually not. It's a 2275, which is a pretty good servo from at least the specs. And of course, Arrma having the stock Spectrum servo, the 605, I believe. I'm not a huge fan of that Spectrum one. I've had a lot of problems with them just going bad for really no reason at all. And I really think if this Kraton had a better servo, it would be much better out of the box. Even if it's another $50 for the truck, just put a higher torque servo. The servo in this, the Spectrum one, is just not strong enough to move even these stock wheels, in my opinion. I'm just not a fan of it. Of course, this new Traxxas one is new, so I guess reliability will tell in the future, but just specs on paper, this little guy seems to be doing really well. And as far as actually physically moving the tires, cranks them over pretty well for a stock servo. And it is full metal gear with an aluminum horn, and same with the Arrma, full metal gear with aluminum horn. So servo wise, the Sledge is going to take it just on pure torque from the box. You just get to go a little longer without upgrading the servo, basically, is what it is, which is nice. All in all, not bad. And then we can talk about the radio system while we're doing electronics here. We'll wrap it up. Of course, you can't really see anything here. Traxxas coming with the TQI controller, and Arrma coming with the DX3 controller, or what's the other one there? There's one cheaper one, which I believe is what the Kraton comes with, not the DX. Maybe it is the DX3. Either way, both radios are basically on the same playing field. Traxxas does have the module for the Bluetooth, so you can look at all the speed and program the radio and all that fun stuff. Spectrum does do the smart stuff, but not out of the box with this one. I think only the EXB ones and the infractions and the bigger model come with that. So radio wise, they both work to me. I would upgrade either one of them to something better, like Airtronics or Futaba, or even a higher end Spectrum, either way. So RTR radios never really made much of a difference to me unless it's a complete piece of crap. But in this case, both seem to do the job, so no bad marks on either one for that. Just checking my notes here, guys. Sorry. In the true podcast form, I'm trying not to do too much. Not going to do really any editing. So, when we were talking about the motor before, Traxxas did come out with a new motor mount design here. So it actually clamps around the motor with the 2 screws and then slides to adjust the mesh. Now, I don't mind this design. The only problem I had was the upgradability here, which I know Traxxas is not a huge fan of changing things from their product to something else, so I kind of understand why they did this. But at the same time, his thing is awful close to the steering post, and I would love to put a Hobbywing or a Castle 8S motor in this, like a 1650, and I can already tell there's no way that I can get that motor in here with this mount. That being said, I'm sure as we are talking right now, somebody is coming up with a motor mount that just mounts in the front here and probably pushes it forward a little bit. So it looks like we got a little bit of room in here to play with. And then we'll slide it forward so we can 8S one of these puppies, because it's just screaming to become 8S. Kraton, on the other hand, the motor bolts to the front, just a front faceplate, and you got a mile of room in the back. That's why these babies are always being converted to 8S or some kind of monster motor in there. So points to the Kraton out of the box for motor upgradability. Super easy to do. I've done it countless times. When I first saw this mount, I was a little disappointed. I do like the design of it, and I'm sure it holds the stock motor fine. So functionality wise, I can't be mad. But upgradability wise, Kraton gets it for me on that one. So moving from the mount to the battery setup, I was at least excited that they went with a relatively large battery tray on this truck, so you can fit 2 cells, 3 cells, and 4 cells. So I was pretty excited that they did that. I'm still gonna have to give it to the Kraton on this one for the battery compartment they came up with, and of course because of upgradability. I'm a big upgrade guy. Now the straps do tend to break and can be a little bit of a pain sometimes to properly strap in the battery, whereas this plastic one, as long as the battery fits, you can just drop it and click it in and you're good to go. Sometimes these straps will get stuck down in here. You got to fish them out with pliers, and it can be a little bit of a pain, but the trade-off is you have a lot of room back here. You can put batteries all the way this long right into the back of this thing. and this thing slides up and down for those of you who don't have one, so you can fit multiple, you know, a couple batteries in here. So I'm going to say the Kraton takes it in the battery department. I'm happy what Traxxas did here. I'm glad that they made it big enough to fit a 6700 or two 7600s. I'm glad they did that, but I still like the Velcro strap and the design of their tray, just for the fact that you can fit huge batteries in here that are an aftermarket brand, not just the Spectrum ones. So, in my opinion, Kraton's going to take the battery design there. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely room for improvement in this tray. I wish they would beef it up a little bit and maybe a little bit better straps, but what are you going to do? I mean, you can always buy some better Velcro straps, probably remove this piece and fit, you know, a huge stack, 2 4-cells in there, something crazy like that. As we're modifying this is going to be a little more tricky. You're going to have to probably remove this piece, maybe put some slots in the chassis, run some straps up through. Going to require a little Dremel work, but give it some time. Somebody's going to probably pop out a cool battery tray design for this thing so we can fit a couple 4-cells and 8S one of these in no time. But currently, box for box, Kraton wins battery tray design for me. Moving on, I'm going to say we got tie rods. And with this one, so, sorry, just jumping right into tie rods here. Let me back up a little bit. The Sledge uses a C-hub design. I don't know if you can see it very well. There we go, get a little light in there. C-hub design, which is basically a C-hub and a steering knuckle, where the Arrma uses a pillow ball, which is an upper and lower ball into one knuckle. Both have pros and cons. As long as you take care of it, one's not really better than the other, I'm going to say. In my opinion, some race cars come with them, some don't. Like, for example, I run a Techno buggy. It's a C-hub design. A lot of my buddies will run a Mugen one or an Associated, and there are the pivot ball. So, performance-wise, I can't really knock one or the other. I think the C-hub design is a little easier for people that don't know how to work on cars, just because the pivot ball require a little bit more maintenance, because if you get dirt in between here and the balls, you got to keep it relatively clean. And if you over tighten the caps on the backside, it makes the steering and the suspension will bind up. So there's a little bit more room for error as far as replacing parts, but if it's done correctly, it's pretty strong and relatively reliable. C-hub design either goes back together or it doesn't. As long as you don't, strip a screw or anything like that, it's pretty much good to go. There is a couple more components in there to break, like you can break the C-hub here, or smash off this where it links to the hub in the back. But then again, I think if you hit this one just as hard as that one, damage would be done to either knuckle. So can't really knock either car for that one, just two different designs. And I'm kind of glad we got two different designs just to spice up the market a little bit. So I'll give it that. And one more thing I'm going to touch on is Arrma does give you an aluminum mounting point over here on the knuckle, which is nice because the Traxxas one is plastic, which I do foresee snapping off back here. But I'm sure there'll be an aluminum knuckle out in no time to take care of that, if it's even a problem. I'm just assuming. So going off of the knuckle, there's a plastic tie rod. Now when I first saw this plastic tie rod in the pictures, I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping for a nice tie rod with maybe some blue aluminum in the middle. Thought that would be cool. That being said, it is a single piece tie rod, so you don't have to worry about any camber adjustment, which is kind of nice for people just getting into the hobby, which Traxxas is usually more geared towards them, not so much adjusting and racing, which I'll give them that. I'll show you over here. Kraton's got a more of a standard tie rod. You can see the plastic ends, the rod in the middle, and it's got a nut on it so you can actually adjust the length, which will adjust the camber in and out on the wheel. Traxxas is fixed, so no adjusting there, but I don't see why they won't come out with adjustable ones in the future. They do seem pretty strong for being plastic, so I will give it that. They do got a little bend to them, but I'm squeezing them pretty good there. Haven't had any problems or anybody bring up to me that they are breaking, so at the current time I'm going to chalk them up to not being a problem, other than just looking a little cheap. But hey, if it does the job, it does the job. So no knocks against the Sledge for it being plastic, not yet anyway. Time will tell on that one. They may become a problem, and aluminum ones I'm sure are in the works, if not already made. There's a Kraton one more time in the back there. Haven't had too many problems with the Kraton ones. The ends are replaceable. They're relatively cheap to fix, so no real problem there. So all in all, suspension wise, not bad. But well, actually we didn't even talk about the shocks. Talk about the shocks real quick while we're talking about suspension. So up in the front we got the Traxxas and the Kraton. So Traxxas uses a plastic collar and a plastic cap. Arrma has an aluminum collar and an aluminum cap. So I'm gonna have to give it to Arrma on that one, just because the aluminum seems to be holding up and doing just fine on the Arrma setup. I don't hardly ever break shock caps or collars on these trucks. Can't really remember the last time I even had a problem with that. The Traxxas shock, they do use a plastic cap and collar on the X-Max. I've had to replace a few caps on the X-Maxes being plastic, but not enough for me to call it a problem. But it would have been nice to see an aluminum cap and aluminum collar here, just because the price of the truck is definitely at a little more of a premium than the Kraton. But I can't really call it a problem. But it would have been nice to see it just because the Kraton's using it. Why not? But like I said, I'm sure there's some nice blue aluminums out there from Traxxas that you can change the cap and the collar. Traxxas is always looking out for that aftermarket. So, shock wise, they honestly feel about the same. Travel wise, let's see. Put them at full droop here. If you can see the bumpers, and the camera wants to focus on the tires. I'm going to say the Kraton got a little more ride height out of the box. A little bit more, sitting a little bit higher. I'm going to say maybe 5 millimeters higher, which isn't crazy. The way the shocks feel, they honestly feel pretty close. I wouldn't say one really feels much better than the other. Arrma does come with shock boots though, just notice that on there. Shock boots on the Arrma, no shock boots on Traxxas. Not that it makes a huge difference, but it is something. So I want to say Arrma shocks, a little bit nicer. Traxxas shocks, still nice, but not really far behind. Wouldn't lose sleep over one or the other. So what else we got here? Oh, in my notes, it does say that the Traxxas does have optional sway bars. You can see the mount there, but the Arrma does come with sway bars front and rear. Again, Traxxas getting you to buy a little bit extra parts here. Seems to be a going trend. Looks like Arrma hooking you up with a few extras like the aluminum caps, collars, and sway bars, while Traxxas posting it up in the aftermarket. That being said, if you are bashing, sway bars may not really be a huge priority, but if they are nice, we pretty much use them on all of our race cars, off-road racing, for handling purposes, and the Arrma is giving them to you. Traxxas, no sway bars. Moving on, I don't know what else we didn't cover. The thing I do see here is, I just did notice on the drive shafts there, they are giving you boots on the front and rear drive shaft, which is kind of nice. Arrma does have their, not really a boot, they do have kind of a collar on there. I think they call it the D-safe. So it doesn't, it's actually cut to the shape of the pinion. So even if the screw comes out, it still spins. It's kind of nice. But, I don't know, boots aren't really necessary for anything in my opinion. They do keep some of the dirt off, but nothing too wild. Both have solid aluminum chassis. Give you an underview of each truck. Honestly, they look fairly similar underneath. You got the skid plates, front and back. Does have a steel spur gear. The arms look pretty solid with filled in webbing. Front and back. And full side guards. Aluminum towers. Kind of hard to see there, wants to focus on the body mounts. Nice low wing they give you on the Traxxas too, I did like that. The Kraton wing does kind of poke up on the back. The Arrma one does seem kind of flow with the body, pretty nice. And they do give you the mud guards on the Sledge here. Nice mud guards. They do sit right up against the tie rod, so they're pretty strong. So bonus points Traxxas, got mud guards. Arrma, no mud guards, but they are out there in the aftermarket. They do make mud guards. They're like 15 bucks, get yourself a set of mud guards, so that's pretty nice. Go the top down view real quick. You guys can check it out. Steering setup looks pretty decent. It's all plastic, but so is the Arrma. Nothing too crazy to compare there. Fairly similar setup. Arrma does give you a steel plate up top here. Traxxas kind of has their own design plastic here, kind of all built into the chassis brace, so looks pretty good. Give you a check of the outcast. The chassis both have these dimples in the back, which are supposed to help with making the chassis more rigid. No skid underneath in the back where the Sledge did have that skid. Both have side guards. The Kraton does give you some nice mud guards up front, which I did actually put these on my Mojave as well. Those are actually nice when the wheel turns here. It doesn't spray all the mud right into your receiver box or servo. So seeing those on the Traxxas would have been nice. Just come up here a little bit, just to keep the mud from coming out. Alright, so I'm going to flip you guys around and talk a little more. Alright, so all in all, guys, we got the Sledge, you got the Kraton, both solid trucks. If I had to vote on one, my problem is that the Sledge hasn't been out very long compared to the Kraton. I've had a lot of ups and downs with the Kraton as far as, you know, doing repairs and upgrades and all that fun stuff. So I've seen all the Kraton gremlins, if you will. So I know exactly what to look for, exactly how much power it'll take, what's going to bend, break, this and that. The Sledge just hasn't been out long enough for me to make those decisions, and I haven't really had to work on one too much. I can only compare it to having to work on other trucks like X-Maxes and Revos, stuff like that, Maxes. With that being said, the few that I have sold and the few videos that I have watched, it seems to be taking one hell of a beating. I thought there was going to be a couple problems with it, like those plastic tie rods and the way the motor was mounted, but I haven't really seen anything to tell me otherwise. Definitely throw a comment down below if you have heard otherwise, because I'm just generally curious of what I will have to possibly order for upgrades in the future. So at the current time, it's really a toss-up between the two. I don't think you can go wrong really either way. The new Sledge is definitely cool. The clipless body, the way that chassis brace was designed, the new higher torque servo, and I think the tires are a little cooler. I do wish that they color match the anodize to the different bodies. I'm not a huge fan of the Traxxas speed control. Had some problems in the past, but like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Kraton one either. I would probably switch out to a hobby wing. I would run the stock one until it breaks. Like I said, they may have come out with different software or some kind of internal updates for the Sledge that I don't know about. So that's a possibility. And as far as the servo goes in the Kraton, I hate that servo. Sorry, Horizon. Just put a better servo in it. You guys make better servos. Just add 50 bucks to the cost and put a good one in there so we can be done with it. Just terrible luck with that one. So electronic wise, other than the servo, they're fairly similar. Like I said, the radios are both just, they're regular ready-to-run radios. I guess the Traxxas probably has the upper hand because you can put the Bluetooth module in it and adjust the programming, which is cool. But at the end of the day, they both kind of do the same thing, and a better radio wouldn't hurt either car. I don't know if I forgot to cover anything. I probably did. They're both solid cars. You can't go wrong either way. It's just my opinion about the two. Definitely do some more research or come down and check them both out. Can't go wrong either way, in my opinion. And you're going to have fun with either car. So that's my spiel and comparison on the Sledge and the Kraton and the new overview of the new Kraton instead of just doing a bash video, which I'm sure everybody has already done. So if you do like this style of mini podcast or series or whatever on a specific product, definitely post up or let me know, because I'm curious to see, and I'll keep doing them if you guys like them. And with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. Another episode of Tyler Talking RC. We'll see you guys all in the next episode. Let me know what you want to see. Have a good day, guys.